Someone asked me whether it's appropriate before taking Tylenol or Advil to say some sort of Tefilah. So it sounds like a very frum thing to do, but it's actually a Gemara. The Gemara in Masechtas Brachos Daf Samach Amud Aleph, the Gemara tells us, Amar Ravacha nichnas lahakis dam. If a person goes to do bloodletting, Omer, you should say, Yehira Tom L'Panecha Hashem Elokai she'esek zeh li l'refuah v'trafeni. That this this endeavor that I'm about to embark on should be something that serves as a refuah, and you should heal me. Kikel rofei ne'manato refuascha emes, because you are a trustworthy healer, and your cures are true. Because it's not really right for people to have a refuah, to go and take refuahs, but that's the minute, that's what we do. So Amar Abaye comments, Lo le'me'inish, don't say that it's not normal or right for people to typically look for refuah. The Tani Dvei Rabbi Shmuel v'Rapo Yerapei Mikan Shenitna Rishus l'Rofei l'Rapos, that the doctor has every right to give a refuah. The doctor has every right to treat patients. So Kikai May Omer, when he finishes the refuah, what should he say? Amar Ravacha Baruch Rofei Chinam. He should say Baruch Rofei Chinam, that Hashem heals for free, and that's a special bracha to Hashem. So apparently there's a Tefilah, I wouldn't call it a bracha rishona, but a Tefilah, although maybe we'll see it is sort of a bracha rishona, like a bracha rishona on a refuah, and a bracha achrona on a refuah. That after the refuah, a person says Baruch Rofei Chinam. So while the line of the Gemara v'Rapo Yerapei Mikan Shenitna Rishus l'Rofei l'Rapos is a pretty famous line, that everyone knows that you're allowed to be a doctor and you're allowed to cure people, you're allowed to heal people, so that gets a lot of attention. And in fact, there's a major discussion in the Rishonim. The Ramban has that stunning line in Vayikra Perek Chavav Pasuk Yud Aleph, where the Ramban writes that the limud of V'Rapo Yerapei is that Mikan Shenit Rishus L'Rofei L'Rapos teaches us that not that a chola has the right to seek refuah, but that a doctor has a right to provide refuah, and but the chola himself should really be boteach b'Hashem, and someone has bitachon b'Hashem that he'll be merape him. Doesn't need any sort of doctors, and he says that's what the Gemara means when it says shein darkan shel bnei adam l'rapos ela shenagu, that if the derech of the bnei adam was not berefuos, then a person who was sick, as Hashem has obviously decreed upon him that he should be, it would be wrong for him to be misrape from a doctor. But achar shenahu berefuos, that's why Hashem allows you to go and be doresh rofim and look for doctors. So there's that stunning Ramban that requires a lot of analysis and trying to figure out what exactly are you supposed to do, and is it really a chisaron in us that we go to doctors? Okay, bottom line, we go to doctors, right? There's no one that argues now that you're supposed to go to a doctor when you're when you need a refuah, right? So that's clear. But what about this other line in the Gemara? What about the line in the Gemara that you're supposed to daven before you take any sort of refuah? So the truth is, the Gemara didn't say any sort of refuah. It said that if you're nichnas lahakis dam, you go to do bloodletting. And the Rambam in Hilchos Brachos Perek Yud Halach Chaf Aleph writes, "Hanichnas lahakis dam Omer Yirut Som Lefnach Hashem Elokai She'esek Zeh Li L'Refuah Ki Rofei Chinam Ata." He leaves out the line of Lefi She'ein Darkan Shel Bnei Adam L'Rapos El Shenagu, because you're not supposed to say that. But you say the first part, he says, and then Kshietze Omer Baruch Ata Hashem Rofei Cholim. Then at the end you say another bracha that Hashem is Rofei Cholim. So the Rambam paskins this Gemara Halacha. The Tur paskins this Gemara Halacha. The Beis Yosef comments that it's based on this Gemara, and he quotes the fact that the Smad quotes the Halacha and the Rambam quotes the Halacha. And he says it sounds like you're even supposed to be Mazkir Malchus. And the fact that the Tur didn't say Shemu Malchus must be somech on what he wrote in Siman Reish Yud Ches, that by all brachos you always are supposed to say with Shemu Malchus. So a lot of times the Tur will quote a bracha and will not tell you that you're supposed to say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. But of course you're supposed to say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, because all brachos are Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. Says Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Lamed Seif Dalid, Hanichnas lahakis dam Omer Yirut Som Lefnach Hashem Elokai She'esek Zeh Li L'Refuah Ki Rofei Chinam Ata Ula'achar She'ekiz Yomar Baruch Rofei Cholim. So again, that you say Yehiratzon using Shem Hashem, and then afterwards a bracha. The Shulchan Aruch says, but that's only by a kazas dam. Comes the Mishnah Berurah Reish Lamed Sivkat and Vav V'hu Hadin B'Kol Midi D'Refuah. Yomar Zeh. That any time you do anything for refuah, you should say this. V'lo yachshov shetiyeh ze davar lo refuah ela al yidei abari yisbarach shemo. And a person should realize that whatever refuah he gets only comes from Hashem, and that's why this tefillah is so necessary. To remind ourselves that it's not the drug manufacturer that has figured out how to cure our backache. Well, certainly backaches haven't figured out, but how to cure our headache or whatever. It's not the drug manufacturer that has figured out how to cure whatever ails us. Rather, it's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu that cures whatever ails us, and therefore by kol midi de refuah. And that's the sheet of the Magen Avram. That's what it says in Chai Adam as well. That whatever you do, you have to realize that it comes from Hashem, and therefore you should say this tefillah. In Sivkat and Zayin, the Mishnah Berurah writes that you have to say b'shem Malchus, meaning the bracha achrona should be b'shem Malchus. But he says that the Pri Megadim says Lori isi noagin kain. Pri Megadim says he never saw anyone that was noheg this way. In Rambam and the Smag it says Baruch Ata Hashem Rofei Cholim. So it's interesting. In the Rambam and the Smag it says it b'shem without Malchus. The Mishnah Berurah writes in Beis Yosef and the Taz that it should probably be b'shem u'malchus. But he says the minhag is neither b'shem nor b'malchus. Just general, the way the Gemara says Baruch Rofei Chinam or Baruch Rofei Cholim, something of that nature. Now, is this quoted by later poskim? And the answer is, yeah, pretty much all of them. Chai Adam writes by Nichnas Leikas Dam, and he says, not just by Leikas Dam, v'chein kodem sheyochal, o yishta ezed davar l'refuah, your throat's hurting and you're having a hot tea, you're even eating or drinking l'refuah. You spalel tefillah zu, and don't think that it's going to be b'refuah any other way other than through HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Aruch HaShulchan also quotes this, and he says, v'chein noagim hamedaktikim. This is what people who are careful, about halacha, are supposed to do. And uliolam yadam ragi lomer kol madav v'rachman al-tava, and a person should generally have a positive attitude that even if Hashem made him ill, that it's all Hashem and whatever Hashem does is for the best. But the actual recitation of this phrase, says Aruch HaShulchan and Siman Reish Lamed Sif Hey, is an appropriate is a totally appropriate thing to do. Kitz Shulchan Aruch and Siman Samach Aleph. Also, Yispalo Kodem Tefilah Ktsara V'Yomar. Yiratzon V'nachas Shemakav Elkav Saisheli Yesek Zalur Foki Rofi Chiram Ata. And he says, and if you're the Im Davar Zeshu Ochel Oshosel Lefut Tzrichim Levarich Alav. What if you have to say a bracha also, meaning it's chicken soup? It's a hot tea. So it requires a bracha. It's not a pill that you're swallowing. So it requires a bracha. What do you say first? The tefillah or the bracha? Says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Yomer Tefillah Zos. You don't want to be mafsik between the bracha and eating. So first you say the tefillah and then you say the bracha. And he also mentions the bracha achrona that one is supposed to recite on this as well. So this seems to be pretty well grounded, and it seems to be that I didn't see any poskim that said that it's dafka for Hakazas Dam. A lot of poskim just quote the Gemara, but a lot of poskim say v'hu adin kol minei refuah, and that's the major poskim on the side of the Shulchan Aruch that say that it's halacha psuka in Shulchan Aruch. Nevertheless, la'achar harafua, it doesn't seem that the minig is to say Baruch Rofei Cholim, and certainly not by Askaras Hashem. And this is quoted by a number of poskim that the minig is not saying la'achar harafua, because it could be that on the la'achar harafua part, that's only on Hakazas Dam. That's what it sounds from a number of the Achronim, the Chai Adam and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and other Achronim that quote the Reisha of the Shulchan Aruch about all matters of refuah, but as far as the Baruch Rofei Cholim at the end, they only say it with regard to Hakazas Dam. The minig is that in Sefer Piskei Tshuvos he quotes from the Makor Chaim of the Chavas Yair in the beginning of Siman Reish Chaf Hey that quotes that the Nohu Galma Shacherim Omrim Baruch Rofei Cholim Kisharom Chola Shekamei Chol Yovalei Chal Boryo, that there's a separate Baruch Rofei Cholim, not right after you take your refuah, but if you were ill, let's say you missed a few days in yeshiva or something, you were ill, and then you come back to yeshiva, so your friend sees you, they haven't seen you in a while, oh, where have you you been? I haven't been feeling well. Baruch Rofei Cholim. Right? That you've heard people do. No? That after a person gets better, someone else says, Baruch Rofei Cholim. So that seems to be a minhag, and that seems to be a very nice minhag and a valid minhag. I don't know why there are a lot of people that do not recite the Yehi Ratzon prior to taking medication. L'chara, we should. Now, not only l'chara we should, it's even a little bit more than that, because in Nishmas Avram, in Siman Reish Daled Os Daled, I quote this in my sefer, in my second sefer, in Siman Yud Zayin. I have a piece about reciting brachos on medicine. Do you recite brachos on medication? So we've discussed that once, right? What if the medicine tastes really good? There was this certain type of cough medicine that when my kids were young, they're a little strange, but when my kids were young, they used to love it. They would pretend to have a cough in order to be able to take this type of cough medicine. I tried it once just to see what's so delicious. It's disgusting, but let's say you're taking a medication and the medication tastes good. So do you recite a bracha on it or do you not? So it's a big discussion in poskim about when yes, when no, and if at all. Nishmas Avram in Siman Reish Daled Os Daled quotes from Rav Waldenberg, Zichron Levracha, from the Tzitz Eliezer, that when the Cholah says Yehi Ratzon before he takes the medication, that's considered like a bracha on the medication, and because the whole idea of bracha rishona, or at least major part of the idea of bracha rishona, is that kol ananim and olam hazeh bracha is kiluma. You're like stealing from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu gave you olam hazeh, and you're not supposed to get any hanar from olam hazeh without a bracha. Without a bracha, it's as if you're stealing. So says Rav Waldenberg, ve'eno nikra gazlan kinena rak achrei hodah l'Hashem yisparach. You gave some sort of hodah to Hashem yisparach, so you're not a gazlan, you're not being nena without a bracha, and therefore it would pater the whatever chomer hamematek, whatever sweet ingredients they add to the naturally awful, nasty taste of cough medicine, whatever flavoring they add would be pater from a bracha through that Yehi Ratzon. So it actually turns out when it comes to reciting a bracha on medication, that not everything is so pashut. When you have something that's mamish a food, chicken soup, a hot tea with honey or something like that, when your throat hurts or when you right, all of that there's no doubt. Everyone agrees you recite a regular bracha because it's food. It just happens to provide some therapeutic value as well. That there's no doubt. Something that tastes good, but people wouldn't normally eat it. They only eat it for refuah. That's a machlokas rishonim, whether you say a shahakol or whether you say the bracha that's appropriate for that particular type of food. The Ramah paskins shahakol. Other rishonim say whatever bracha is appropriate for that type of food. That's an uncommon circumstance. But a much more common circumstance is something that is made as a medication. It's a davar shel refuah. It's really be'etzem, something that's mar, that's bitter, that's disgusting, that's difficult to eat. But because it's difficult to eat, the drug companies have added flavoring to it to make it not that the sweet tasting thing, the good tasting thing has no medicinal value. It's just it's to help get the medicine down. So they've added some sweetener to that. So what do you do in such a case? So many poskim, Rav Neuvert, Rav Asher Weiss hold that you don't say a bracha at all on such things. However, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach held that you do say a bracha on the sweetener. If the sweetener is sugar, you say a bracha on the sugar. And Tzitz Eliezer is coming along. Tzitz Eliezer says you should pater it with the Tefilah. Pater it with the Tefilah, meaning that way you could avoid this whole suffix. You're not sure, yes, no, pater it with the Tefilah. Now, obviously, something that's just absolutely bitter and disgusting and has no anah whatsoever, it doesn't require a bracha. But this Tefilah, l'chora, should apply in all of these cases. So again, I'll put it out there. I haven't seen any discussion of why not to say it. I didn't see anyone that says that we don't paskin like this line in the Shulchan Aruch, the way the Mishmur, the Magen Avraham understand. I would imagine those who don't say it would say that the reason not to say it is that the Shulchan Aruch only says beferish about being mekes dam. So even though all the Nosikelim say it applies to other types of refuah as well, Shulchan Aruch only says beferish about being mekes dam. I would imagine that the explanation of those who don't say it is probably along those lines. But it seems like you lose nothing. That's for sure. You lose nothing by recognizing the Ribono Shel Olam before you take a medication. Seems like a very good thing to do.
Customize your Master of Divinity with Fuller's new MDiv concentrations. Are you called to lead in a church or congregational setting? Our Leadership in Times of Change concentration prepares you to lead in times of disruption. Build your leadership skills through our courses such as Dynamics of Power and Gender in Leadership. Visit fuller.edu/leadership concentration to learn more.
For the ones who know that a little late is always too late, and that the clock doesn't stop just because you're missing a part, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry. And our Keep Stock inventory management solutions help ensure you have the right stuff in the right place at exactly the right time. Visit Grainger.com/keepstock to learn more. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.